Hi, folks. Well, here we are to discuss kicking anxiety's butt. And this is a really, really strange and interesting time, is it not? For us to be in the midst of a global pandemic, something that we've never seen the likes of and are making a lot of people really, really anxious and unsettled and feeling like they have no control. It's a really, really tough situation. Every day we watch the news and there's more frightening things for us. So the idea of today is kicking anxiety's butt is to help all of us be able to manage our anxiety through this time. People are afraid, people are sick, people are isolated, people are self-isolating, people live alone. We have our parents and maybe we can't visit. They're sick and alone and afraid. We have the kids home and the kids are probably driving you crazy. What do I do with them all day? I have to homeschool them. I have to manage them on their screen time. They can't play with their friends. We know that, a lot of couples are together and not liking all this close, intimate time together and having a really tough time. In fact, we know that the domestic violence rates in Europe have absolutely skyrocketed. We know that there's no privacy. We know that there's financial stress. There's job losses. There's canceled vacations. There's canceled celebrations. They are canceled doctor's appointments, canceled IVF cycles that people have been waiting and waiting and waiting for to family build. The stress of being out in the world to buy food. The stress of living with a partner who is actually one of our frontline people and then coming home to us. So I could go on and on and on with the kinds of stressors and things that are making us anxious. So it's easy to see how difficult this is emotionally, psychologically, physically. And my goal today, which I hope I can do in 30 minutes, is to show you how to minimize the anxiety that we're experiencing, because we all have choices. And what I really believe is that we are already equipped with all of the ingredients necessary to help us lower our anxiety. We have them in us, we are equipped. And that's what I want to show you to develop these skills in order to kick anxiety's butt. Okay, one of the things I always ask my clients, I see a lot of clients who come to see me with really grave situations. And I'm going to pick one as an example. At clients who come to me who've just received a diagnosis of cancer. And we spend the session talking about this, and we spend the session talking about what it feels like and how frightened they are and what they're going to do and what stage they're in and what treatments they think they have and how their doctor's appointments went. And we spend all of the time debriefing that and trying to talk about that. And close to the end of the session, I always ask my people, how do you want to do cancer? My clients look at me and say, what do you mean? I have no choice. And I say, actually, you do have a choice. You can go to bed and pull the covers and stay there for a year. You can get depressed. You can start drinking. You can try drugs. You can actually be critical and down on yourself and say things like, what the hell was I thinking? I knew I wasn't feeling well. Why didn't I go to the doctor sooner? What the heck is the matter with me? Oh, how stupid was I? You can do that. Or you can be caught up in anxiety with the what ifs, uh-ohs, and oh my gods. What if I don't make it through? What if I can't handle the treatments? What if I lose my hair? What if I'm really sick? What if I'm vomiting? What if we can do that to make us really anxious. Or we can actually be indulgent or indulge a belief or a stance. What is a stance? A stance is a position that we have in life. And I'll give you an example. A stance in this would be, of course, I got cancer. Only bad things happen to me, right? Nobody else that I know has cancer. That would be an indulgent stance of victimizing, self-pitying. So there are lots of ways to do it. There are also ways that you can do it with empowerment and grace and grit and researching wellness and health and managing appointments and doing it with a positive attitude. So we always have a lot of choices about how we deal with really difficult external events. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this. How do you want to do COVID-19? Think about it. And here's the thing about perspective. Perspective is that most things turn to dust in the long run. And let me explain what I mean about that. Things happen to us. And yet in 2, 3 years, 5 years, 6 months, we can never really remember the true intensity of our feelings and what it felt like and the experience of it. I'm going to give you an example. I often ask clients, I'll say, Jim, remember back in June 2019, what happened with your boss? Do you remember that? And Jim will say, no. No, don't you remember that email went around and you thought you were going to lose your job? And you remember there were people, oh yeah, I sort of remember that. Okay. And I say, Jim, we talked about it for like 3 or 4 sessions. Yeah, no, I sort of remember. Or Marion, do you remember November 2018? Do you remember what happened with your sister? Yeah, remind me again. Don't you remember your sister? She had spoken to you. She said she wasn't going to talk to you anymore because you were trying to arrange something and you didn't agree with her. Oh yeah, sort of. Marion, like we spoke about it for 3, 4 sessions. So my point is, things do turn to dust over time, right? And I want you to think about this question. In 12 or 18 months, when we look back on COVID-19, how do you want to say that you did it? And that's the piece that I want to give you, that we have choices. So I want to walk through 3 things with you. The first thing is, I want us to all listen to how we feel. Call it your gut, call it your inner child, call it your child state, call it whatever you want. I call it the child state because for me, in the child state resides all of our feelings, all of our wants, and all of our needs. And our job is to take care of that part of us and listen very intently to us. Okay, remember, the child state houses our feelings, our needs, and our wants. So you have to ask yourself, what do I need and want through this really, really difficult time that's scaring all of us? Well, let's see. I want one member of the family to do the grocery shopping once a week or twice a week. That would make me feel better. I want the person who does the grocery shopping to actually leave the bags outside in the garage or on the driveway so that I can go out and manage them and wipe them down before bringing them in. That would make me feel better. And if I'm outside, I want to make sure that I maintain my 2 meters between people, my 6 feet, because that would make me feel better. Let me give you a personal example. We have a dog and we're out walking the dog a lot. And we go to this big field where there are lots of dogs and lots of dog owners. And you can keep like 6 feet, you can keep 30 feet away from people if you want to. And the other day we were in this park and a woman came over to me and she started to come closer to me than I felt comfortable with. And as she was coming closer, I was backing away. And as she was coming closer, I was backing away until I had to say, you know what? I really, really would make me really comfortable if we could keep the 6 feet. That's what would make me feel better. Now, here's the idea. What I could have done this, I could have rationalized and said, oh, Donna, you know her, she probably doesn't have COVID. It's okay. You're only talking to her for 2 minutes and really you're only, 4 feet away and she's not coughing and it'll be over soon. I could have done that and compromised my inner being when that little child part of me is saying, please get her to stand further away. But I didn't want to compromise myself because I heard loud and clear what I needed and what I wanted. So let me also say, if your partner or somebody in your household is actually on the front line, what do? That is an anxiety-producing situation. You're at home, maybe with the kids, maybe alone. They go out into the front line, they come home. It's a tough one because now we have 2 people who have their own little inner child and they want and need different things. So I want to say to you for this is a couple issue. I don't see it as being any different than where do we want to move? Do we want to live in the country or the city? What do we want to do with that money? Where do we want to send our kids to school? it's a discussion. And I always say for couples, you have to give up something to move closer to the center. You have to give up something to move closer to the center. You have to give up something to move closer to the center, and so on, until we come to a place where each of us feels that we can exhale a bit. You may not get exactly what you want because some people are in high anxiety, but at least that little girl, little boy, little whoever, whatever gender it is, might feel, okay, that will make me feel better. Okay, so that is the first thing that I want to talk about, which is honor that place in you. As I say, call it your gut, call it whatever you want, honor it, so that you can feel you are looking out for yourself and getting as much as what you need and want during this really, 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 really difficult time. Okay, the second thing that I want to bring up is when you're talking to yourself, I want you to imagine, if you do have children, for those of you out there who do have children, I want you to imagine how you would talk to an anxious child. So let's say your child says, mommy, daddy, nobody wants to play with me at school. This is obviously pre-COVID-19. Or, oh my God, what if I don't finish the year? What if I don't get through the exam? What if I don't get into the university? What if, there's all the what ifs. Well, how would you respond to your child? Would you jump on the catastrophizing bandwagon and say, what do you mean the kids didn't want to play with you? Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit alone at recess and nobody wants to play with you? And what does the teacher say? And maybe you should go see the teacher. And that's just awful. I don't think we would do that as parents. And if we would do it as parents, it's probably time to change that now. Okay, somebody's worried about, getting into university. And if we were to say, well, what's going to happen? What if you don't get into that university? All your friends are going there. What are you going to do? You're not going to know anybody. I don't think that's the best approach. We don't want to augment people's anxiety and say, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible. So we want to parent ourselves or talk to ourselves internally the same way we would want to talk to our children. Okay. Now, I wanted to bring up another point. Not everybody has the same anxiety levels. Okay, so we're going to talk about that in a moment. So just to review, number one is make sure you listen to that gut in yourselves that houses your feelings and your needs and your wants, and try and get to that as much as you can during this difficult time. And it could be a big one or it could be a small one. Number two, talk to yourself, like talk to ourselves the same way we would talk to our child. Not jumping on the catastrophizing, anxiety-inducing bandwagon, but calming them down, being a calm kind of leader, demonstrating leadership and stability and nurturing and calmness and protection and reassurance. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Instead of the catastrophizing with them, you may say to your kids, right, I'm here for you. It's going to be okay. It's all going to work out. Even if you go to a different university than your friends, we'll figure it out. It's going to be okay. And even with COVID-19, this too shall pass. Okay. So let me move on to number three. I'm just checking the time to see how we're doing. Number three is, I want to take you through my 6-step healing process. Okay, 6-step healing means, how do we get out of this kind of anxiety through these 6 steps? Now, what I want to say is there is always in life an external event that causes us to feel something. And COVID-19 is real. And as a real event, it's pretty high on the level of anxiety producing. And there are a lot of ways, however, that we can filter this situation. Just as I mentioned before, the cancer patients, there's lots of ways you can filter it. So everybody has different anxiety levels. Yesterday, I saw through secure video a couple, and we were talking about, like, how's your anxiety? And he answered and he said, 0. And she answered and said, oh, it can be as high as a 10. So what I want to say, this is exactly the point I want to make. Same external situation, COVID-19. One has a 0 anxiety, one has as high as 10. What is that? I'm saying that this is how we are filtering it. This is why I want to walk you through the 6 steps to know how to change the filter. Okay? Now, we have choices. We already possess all the ingredients necessary to get us through this. They're already there. Okay? And what I don't want anybody to do is compromise themselves and give in just because somebody's anxiety level is lower than theirs. Okay, let me repeat that. I don't want anybody to compromise their comfort level because somebody's anxiety level is lower than theirs. Listen to yourselves. Okay, so let me give you some examples. Let me give you this example of somebody brings some groceries in and says, oh my God, I didn't wash my hands soon enough after touching the grocery bags. Okay, so what I want us to understand that the part that the filter that I'm talking about that's on our throats, not literally, but imagine in your imagination, is what I'm calling the catastrophizer in us. The catastrophizer in us every time is going to make us anxious. You know the catastrophizer because it starts sentences with what if, uh-oh, and oh my God. Any sentence that starts with any of those 3 things, you know you have a catastrophizer on you. And you always know that the catastrophizer in us is going to make us feel, if you're saying anxious, that's the right answer. Always going to make us feel anxious. Okay? So the tools are to talk to yourself. This is an internal conversation. So somebody says, oh my God, I didn't wash my hands soon enough before bringing in the grocery bags. Okay. First thing is, now I'm anxious. If I'm anxious, who's on board? If you said the catastrophizer, you're correct. That's step 1 is identifying the feeling. Step 2 is who's on board. In this case, they're all going to be the catastrophizer because we're talking about kicking anxiety's butt. That's what we're talking about, anxiety. Okay? So here are things. So once the catastrophizer is on your throat, right? Not literally, but as I say, metaphorically, the healthy side of us has to start kicking into gear. And the first healthy part that rushes out is the protector in us. Now, what does the protector do? Is the protector protecting us from COVID-19? No. What's the protector protecting us against? If you say our catastrophizing filter, then you're right. So the idea is, think about this catastrophe, right, on your throat. Well, what if I get COVID? I didn't wash my hands, and I think I'm getting a sore throat now, and I didn't wash my hands quick enough or long enough. I didn't do it for I didn't sing happy birthday when I washed my hands, and there wasn't enough soap. That's all the catastrophizer. The protective part of us comes in and takes that away from us. It tackles it. It's whatever you want to do in your imagination. Think of some kind of metaphor. My personal favorite is I get my catastrophizer under my arm and I put it in a headlock and I squeeze and squeeze and squeeze until it's like has nothing more to say. Now mine's a little violent. Yours doesn't have to be as violent. Some people say I'll lock it in a room. Some people say I'll throw it off the cliff. Right? Mine is the headlock. A client a few months ago said, oh, Donna, can I mace it? I said, absolutely, go ahead and mace it. We just want to stop it in its tracks because if we get it off our throat, we're not feeling anxious anymore, right? Think about when you're cooking a meal at home, cooking for your kids, doing their homework, setting up something on the computer. You're not anxious. Why? Because the catastrophizer isn't on your throat. Okay, so step 1, acknowledge the anxiety. Step 2, identify it as a catastrophizer. Okay, it's not, this is making us worse. COVID's bad enough, our filter is adding to it. You get the protector to rush out and take it out, take it down. Okay, the next step, which is step 4, is the nurturer in us. The nurturer doesn't have to do much. The nurturer is the one that validates us and reassures and comforts and soothes and holds us close and says, there, I've got you, sweetheart, right? And the nurturer may say things like, I'm here for you. It's going to be okay. Breathe and let's just sort of settle your physiology. Okay, now if the catastrophizer is away, you're going to start calming down. If you see that you're anxious again, do you know what's happened? Somehow your protector got distracted, right? The Catastrophizer is back on your throat, which means you have to start back at step one. But let's assume our protector is doing a really great job at keeping it in abeyance. Our nurturing parent then holds us close, reassures, validates, I know you're nervous, this is a scary time, we're all really frightened at this time. Hold us close. I'm here for you, I'm not leaving. This is all in our minds. It's not really a parent saying, I'm here. It's us saying it to ourselves. Once we've done the nurturing part, then we bring in the guide. The guide is a wonderful part of us. It's the teacher. It's the mentor. It provides perspective. I think of it as the therapist sort of putting the pieces together. And the guide might say, sweetheart, the chances of you getting sick from not washing your hands soon enough are very, very, very low. Very low. You did wash your hands. And you sang happy birthday once. Maybe you didn't sing happy birthday twice. You're strong and you're healthy. Even if you got it, you will get through this. So that's the guide with the perspective. And then the step 6, is the adult in us. And what does the adult do? The adult is the part of us that takes care of business in life. The adult clicked on and joined a webinar. The adult paid a bill. The adult made dinner. That's what the adult does. So the adult in us might wash our hands again and might then move on to the next task. Okay. I have another example, but I'm looking at the time. So I'm going to skip that second example and I'm going to give you a personal example. My personal example is that my mother is 95, demented, and in a long-term care facility. I visit my mother 3 to 4 times a week. My mother has a caregiver 3 hours a day. Last night I got a text that there's a COVID case in my mom's building. This morning I got a text from the caregiver saying I'm too frightened to go in. I think this is the perfect time for me to be anxious, don't you? My catastrophizer could say, well, what if nobody takes care of her? And what if they don't change her clothes? And what if they don't take out her teeth and help her at night? And what if they just leave her? And what if she's scared and lonely? And who's going to be with her? I could have a field day. But I don't want to do that because I don't want to make myself anxious. So if I do get anxious, I know then it's my catastrophizer. That's steps 1 and 2. Number 3 would come in and it would pry the catastrophizer off my throat. And it would say, you leave her alone. Do you hear me? Leave her alone, meaning me. So these are all things that I'm doing in my mind's eye. Leave her alone. And then my nurturer would come in and have to hold me close and say, you know, Dones, that would be my nickname for myself. Dones, you've done a great job with your mom. You visit her 3, 4 times a week. You've done everything for her. You've been there. You've moved her. You help her dress. You help her with her teeth. You do everything for her. You've been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful daughter. And I understand that you are really nervous and sad that maybe she's going to be alone and you're anxious about it. It's okay. I'm here for you and I'm going to calm you down. And then the guide would come in and give me perspective that, you know what, Don, she's 95. She is demented. She probably doesn't really know the difference because she doesn't really understand time. So let's take some solace in that. And whatever happens, we're going to deal with. And then the adult might write an email, bake some cookies, write a note to the advocate, the advocate that's there for the family members, for the residents of the long-term care facility. So it all helps bring down my anxiety. So what I want to tell you in this really, really difficult time, and there's so many scenarios out there, is we actually possess the skills necessary to be able to minimize our anxiety. If we want to indulge it, I promise you will be anxious. So the 6 steps, I'm just going to pull this up. Well, actually, I don't think I can share my screen right now. Okay, well, no. Okay. No, there's nothing to show the screen right now. So let me do it this way. If you are interested in the 6 steps and seeing them, you can buy my book. Some of you may have my book, Becoming Your Best Self by Donna Jacobs. And in there is a whole chapter on 6-step healing, as well as the handouts in the back. So I want to summarize now in summary. Number 1, always check in with your inner child, gut, whatever you want to call it, to know what you feel, how you feel, what you need, and what you want. Number 2, Parent yourself, your own little kid, in the same way you would parent your children. You wouldn't catastrophize. You wouldn't torment them with anxiety. You would try and calm them down and be the voice of reason. Number 3, when you feel anxiety in your body, know that it is your catastrophizer on board. There is always an external situation. That is true. And the valence of the external situation can be a 1 on 10 or a 10 on 10. But as soon as we add on the catastrophizer, it becomes way more than that and way less manageable. Number 4, immediately call on your protective parent to come in and take that catastrophizer away. Bring in then your nurturing parent who will hold you close and reassure and validate and comfort you and tell you it's going to be okay. You know why? Because they're there. My nurturing parent is in me. So it can hold me tight and tell me that I'm going to be here for you regardless of what happens. I can't reassure myself that it's all going to be okay, but I'm here for you. And then the guide will come in, and the guide gives the perspective, right? The guide is that perspective and that timeline, reminding you that about the timeline, and also that it's likely the catastrophizer that's on your throat. And the last one, number 7, is enlist the adult to take care of business and move it forward. That's what the adult does. Do something different. Make a decision, have a conversation, call a friend, write in your journal, go do some yoga, go do some meditation, take an online dance course. Do something. That's what the adult does. So we move it away from the catastrophizing. Okay, there are a couple of things that I want to read to you before we close. I received this today from my colleague who heads our clinic, Mind Health Toronto, and this is what it says. We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man or a woman, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Viktor Frankl. Today, while watching CNN for a few minutes, Andrew Cuomo was on, governor of New York, and he says you will deal with death, pain, setback, and suffering. And he said, how do you get up? And if you do get up, do you get up smarter and wiser, or bitter and angry? We have control over that. So those are my messages to you folks. I hope, oh look, 8:30 on the dot. I hope that this has been helpful. I want to offer you to go to my YouTube channel, Donna Jacobs. I don't know if it's Donna Jacobs, psychologist, or Donna Jacobs. You'll find it. There are a lot of videos there about my therapeutic model. There's also a video I'd love you to watch, which is I rewrote the lyrics for John Lennon's Imagine, and I would love for you to hear that as maybe a bit of an uplifter. And if you want to buy my book, you can actually contact me directly and I will deliver it to you. Or you will go to Caversham if it is open, or to my website, which is donnajacobs.ca. And there are links to my YouTube and my Facebook. And I'm just listening to my techie in my ear. Kim, where are they? On my website, you will find all the links. She's been very helpful. Okay, and say that again, Kim? We'll post it as a comment on Facebook as well. Kim will post it as a comment on Facebook as well. So folks, I hope that this helps somewhat. We have a long haul ahead of us, a lot of anxiety and pain and sadness and aloneness, but we can do it because we are already possessed. We possess the ingredients necessary to do this. So I wish you all the best. I hope this was helpful. And if you want to reach out to me, please feel free to do that, okay? Mwah. Love to all.